Hey there, poddies. So today I've got a really exciting show for you guys. I am bringing Jamie and Janine Capaldi onto the show from Capaldi Marketing. They are LinkedIn lead generation specialists. And I'm really excited about this because LinkedIn has become a very popular platform. Of late, there have been a number of different reasons as to why LinkedIn is being highlighted and why people are starting to use LinkedIn, both in the B2C and B2B world. And I wanted to bring in some genuine experts who have used LinkedIn extensively, both for individuals who are selling business to consumer and also for people who are selling B2B, who are using that to sell primarily to corporations. And for corporations who have sales teams who want to embrace a more holistic approach to LinkedIn lead generation and sales. So it's actually a really interesting episode where you're going to hear lots of different sides of the coin. And I always think that that's really valuable. It's not enough anymore to just know what you should be doing. It's about thinking about the chain reaction effect that will have on your business. And one of the things that I really love about Jamie and Janine is that they have developed what they call a holistic sales system on LinkedIn that they use with their own clients, both in large scale B2B sales teams, with individuals, all across the range. And they're being really brutally honest about what it actually takes to generate high quality, high revenue leads from LinkedIn, which is something that we don't talk about that often. Often we'll talk about how you build your audience. We'll talk about, getting numbers and vanity metrics. But today we're really digging into the ROI of specific platforms and what that might actually look like for you guys. Now, I'm really doubly honored to have Jamie and Janine on the show today, not just because there's two of them, but also because I have been fortunate enough to watch the growth of their business from almost the beginning. I've been really, really privileged to watch them build both a B2C business and then add an agency side to it. It's been an absolute honor to watch them take on clients, to scale their business, to be outsourcing different tasks in their business. And I'm so, so proud of the amazing work that they've already put in and the amazing work that I'm seeing them continue to do working with me. So hugely, hugely honored to have these two absolute gems on the show today. It's going to be an interesting conversation. It's going to be super fun because they are hilarious. And obviously, you're going to get a lot of tips on LinkedIn as a platform and what you can be doing to improve your sales process over there as well. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. Hey, poddies, how exciting is this? We've got another three-way for the show, which I'm very excited about. There we go. Thought we'd get a laugh in early. Welcome, Jamie and Janine Capaldi to the show. It's so good to have you guys here.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks for having us, Jess.
So I'm still laughing.
Yeah, that's going to take a while. So why don't you all listen to some music for about 5 minutes while we calm down and talk about how immature we are. I'm so excited to have you guys here, though, seriously. So can you just tell us a little bit about what you actually spend your days doing? Because there are two of you, so I always assume it's probably more complex than it is.
No, it's not complex.
Yeah, do you want to...
Yeah, sure. So basically, we help B2B businesses take advantage of LinkedIn by generating high value leads and sales. There's two parts to our business. One is agency side. So we are managing accounts for high level execs for B2B SMEs. And the other side is training. So we train sales teams on how they can best utilize LinkedIn in their sales process so that they can, generate a lot more leads for the business and generate a lot more sales, basically.
I love this. Also because it's all about making money, and we all know Jess is mercenary. Woo woo. So what I really like about this is because, and what I'm loving that we're having this conversation around is because recently there's been this huge increase in popularity with LinkedIn, hasn't there? Over the last probably 18, 24 months, everyone went from thinking, oh, LinkedIn, that clunky platform that nobody wants to use, to suddenly everyone using it, like everyone and their dog is now all over LinkedIn. And what really grinds my gears about it is that everyone's doing these things that I don't think could possibly work. Like, I'm talking about these boring automated messages that everyone's sending, and that I know full well at 2 a.m. you are probably not responding directly to me. And it really worries me that we are perpetuating this kind of weird cycle of, yeah, sure, Jess is up at like 3:15, just checking her LinkedIn, doing a thing. So why did you guys start working with LinkedIn specifically as a platform? What was it that attracted you to this world when all we see now is kind of this weird pseudo platform where everything is automated and nobody really understands why they should be building relationships properly?
Yeah, I think we'll probably both have something to say about this, won't we? So
yeah. Why don't you start where what reason why you started?
Yeah, sure. So I guess ultimately, before Jamie and I joined forces to create our business, I'm a trained coach and trainer. So when I started using LinkedIn, it was with the idea of I wanted to build relationships with people that I could work with in a coaching capacity. I'm a pretty quiet person. I'm not so great with face-to-face networking, or at least what I thought face-to-face networking was at the time. And so I turned to LinkedIn because I thought, well, I think my people are here. I think the people I want to grow relationships are here. It looks like there's a bit of a gap for me to start to write content and build relationships that way with people. And I guess in some ways that's what allowed Jamie and I to see quite early on, with mistakes for sure, because, everybody does have them, but that it is that relationship piece that holds it together. I think, whilst kind of coaching clients are they're not kind of necessarily a core group of ours right now. If you're going to work with a coach, you need to be able to kind of trust them, have built some rapport up with them, at least know that they can really speak to some of the challenges you face. That's not going to happen through a 2 a.m. automated message. So I think with that in mind, I guess even when we work with all of these, kind of work with these different kinds of clients, we've got that in mind about, okay, who are your people? Are they on LinkedIn? Okay, let's look at how we can work with them, how we can build those relationships with them. But yeah, I agree. Like, there's a real variety, isn't there, of how people are using it and whether they use it well or not.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have different opinions on it as well. I mean, there's a lot of people just using it in a way that, if you spray enough stuff out there, something's going to stick, so the more messages I can get out, the more people I can connect to, there's a certain percentage that will maybe respond and be interested. But what we've always believed in is that, what makes LinkedIn very different is the relationship side of things, because you can really build really authentic relationships with people. And it doesn't always have to be your end consumer. It can be channel partners. It could be introducers to your business. There's so many different ways you can look at it. You can actually build a massive network of people that, might buy from you, but also can introduce business to you, that you just don't get that on any other social media platform, which just makes it very unique in our opinion.
I completely agree. I think the thing that I love most about LinkedIn, and you guys hear me bang on about this all of the time, but I love the fact that LinkedIn has stayed with its purpose. It's a professional networking platform. And for me, professional networking means mutually beneficial relationships. And that's what I like about LinkedIn, is that you can ask for mutually beneficial relationships. You can create those transparently. Whereas the problem with other social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest or whatever is that they were all designed for social media. They were designed for you to connect with others, but to be social about it, it was entertainment at best. I read through my Facebook newsfeed and sometimes it looks like a Jeremy Kyle episode. I'm like, come on guys, dirty laundry is not something I need to see on a Sunday afternoon. But the thing that has happened with those kind of more traditional social platforms is that people have tried to use them for business. And that's where we see this idea that sales has become really sleazy, because people are like, oh yeah, well, so-and-so jumped in my inbox and how dare they ask me to join their group? How dare they want me to like their business page? How dare they sell me, insert multi-level marketing thing here. And the reality is that those things aren't pleasant, but if they happened on LinkedIn, I don't think you can be as bothered because it's designed to be mutually beneficial. I connect with you because I think I might be able to bring value to your table. And I'm hoping that in some way, shape, or form, you're going to be able to bring me value, whether that's being paid, referring business, that kind of thing. I mean, do you guys on LinkedIn see this kind of rise in the coaching pyramid scheme? Because over on Facebook and Instagram, it's certainly been, there's an outbreak of coaches coaching other coaches to be coaches. That was a lot of C's. And that's been something that's really difficult to combat. Are you seeing that on LinkedIn? Are you seeing that pop up now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's interesting because there are a lot of coaches on LinkedIn. So people that want to target coaches will naturally go to LinkedIn. I think as a recipient coach of messages and content on LinkedIn, it's only so many 10x messages you can get. And that's what it just seems to point down. But what's interesting is because Janine comes from a coaching background, I don't think a message could resonate with you less than a 10x message, because it's not the reason why. I know for a fact that Janine became a coach in the first place. It wasn't necessarily about money, it was about helping people. And yeah, so in answer to your question, yes, there's definitely a lot of action on coaches, but I think the problem is there's a massive gap between what people are seeing as a coach and what actually is important to them as a coach.
Jess, I'm just sitting here just so happy and proud because when Jamie's talking, it's like I've been just like banging on and on and on about this, and he just said exactly what I think about it.
That's the best thing about the husband and wife team. Eventually, I will talk about this so much that you will just get the message via osmosis from me, and I will have to think about it.
For once, I have nothing to add.
I love that though, and I think it's really important, and it's so interesting that you've raised that point around, most people who are coaches are not resonating with that message, because I think, there's two things there. One is obviously it's become massively saturated. We all know that. But the second is there a different way that people can be doing it? Because you guys you talk about this holistic sales system using LinkedIn. And I guess my question is, could people be doing things differently that would actually give them more power regardless of the space they're in? Because arguably we're all in saturated sales spaces right now. So how could we be using it differently to make more money and actually not be feeling sleazy and gross about that?
Yeah, I think the really important thing, and this is what we do, because we do some coaching for like consultants and service-based business owners, and when we do that process, we always start with the same thing, and that is your target market. And you have to know your target market really, really well to be able to communicate with them in the right way, and to communicate with them in the way they want to be communicated with, if that makes sense. So I'd say, as a sort of general statement, that DMing coaches with spammy messages is never going to work ever, basically. Very, very rarely. It's just not something that audience, from the work that we've done, resonate with. So the people that are doing that are just lazy because they're not doing the work at the beginning of the process to work out what is the most effective way of getting the message across to that target audience. And those kind of messages are not the most effective way. So what we find is interesting is there's just no one size fits all on LinkedIn, which is the challenge, and it's not what people generally want to see. But there are no magic templates. There is no magic system that's going to work on LinkedIn. You have to shape your activity around your target market, and it's going to be very different depending on the people that you're targeting. So some people are, maybe higher up the corporate ladder, CEO, sales directors, etc., may appreciate a more direct approach, for example, because they want you to get to the point and know how you're going to help them. I'd say completely the other side of the scale are probably coaches, because they need to be nurtured in terms of a relationship. There has to be a more of a value-driven approach before you ever get to the point where you want to talk about business and how, you can potentially sell them something, or you can help each other.
Yeah, I'd certainly say there would be as well, like much more emphasis on the content side of things, wouldn't there? Like, for us, the content side of LinkedIn is always important. But again, depending on who you're trying to build the relationship with, they will review it in a different way. You know, some people won't ever come and engage on it, but it's what they want to see to know that you've got that credibility and authority and that you know what you're talking about. There'll be someone else who will, you know, want to be engaging with you for a long time before they even book a call with you. And, you know, I guess the more that you delve into who your kind of perfect customer type is, the more you'll understand and be able to develop your strategy on like what you put, where you put your energy, what you know, what's best to put your energy in what area, if that makes sense.
And that's really interesting, because I think so many people, just to pick up on a point that you made there, Janine, so many people pick up on vanity metrics. Everyone wants their post to be liked, and they're like, oh, I need likes, I need comments. And there's been this huge thing around LinkedIn pods and stuff like that. But actually, you know, I always find that when I'm posting stuff on LinkedIn, a lot of the time I have 0 people who like my stuff. But it's really good, because those are the people who always message me and go, oh, I really like that post, and how can I do this, or how can I book a call, or how can I take XYZ? And so when people come to me and they say, oh yeah, but I don't get any likes on LinkedIn, I'm like, well, for me, it's not necessarily about likes. I don't get paid in likes, so I don't really care about them. You know, it's nice to have them and it's great for the exposure, but is there that piece that actually we can define as being a vanity metric versus something that's actually relationship building? You know, when we're looking at that ideal customer, is there a better way for us to tell? Like, should we be putting out more broadcast content that more people can view and get exposure? Or should we be focusing on, okay, well, what specific pieces of broadcast content are we okay with not necessarily getting any likes or comments on, but that are going to be designed to get that person to proactively build a relationship with us?
Yeah, I don't know if I've got a direct answer for this. Jamie might have something, but it's reminded me of something that we spoke about on LinkedIn last week, actually, where we were looking at our clients. They're very varied, and actually, so it is hard to compare, but this client has, when you look at it across other clients, has the least amount of engagement on their content of any of the clients, and yet receives the most amount of inbound inquiries and leads through LinkedIn. Because they are so specific to what they do, who they do it for, even where, even like the location for them is important. And so, you know, the network that they have is all, you know, very much kind of local to them. And they get inbound inquiries because they are so specific about their content. And I would say that, yeah, there is a mixture of broadcast and also, you know, questions, bringing their insights, all of that kind of thing. But they are just relentlessly consistent with what they talk about, what they discuss, and what their area is.
Yeah, I think the important point for me on this is context. So your content should be providing context consistently on what you do, what you have to offer, and how it helps people. Generally, that isn't going to get a huge amount of engagement, but the people that engage with your content are probably the less likely people to actually buy from you. It's always the people that are silent that generally do buy at the end of the day, the lurkers, as we call them, on LinkedIn. So I think I think for, you know, people that are listening that do get a little bit confused about content, should I be going for engagement, you know, posting videos on puppies and stuff to get likes and all that kind of jazz?
Yes, please, if you're gonna
if it was aimed at you, then yes.
Puppies, yes, all day long.
Or do you just keep banging the drum on, you know, what you do, why it's amazing, what you have to offer, and why it is relevant to the people that are looking at your content? Then it's always going to be the second option for us. And that's why we find, you know, more inbound leads coming from the people that are very specific on their content rather than people that are more generic and just looking for a bit of engagement.
Yeah, it's really powerful. You know, I think it's something that perhaps people don't see often enough, because on social we're taught so much that it matters, like likes matter and engagement matters. But actually, I love what you guys are saying around, you know, it's the content and it's the context of that content that ultimately is going to be the bit that gets you the result.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, there's the obvious caveat that you need to, you know, you want to be kind of confident enough that your content is, you know, speaking directly to those people, don't you? I mean, like, we do get questions sometimes like, how do I, well, okay, that's great, that's reassuring, but how do I know that that's what's happening, as opposed to my content's just really not very good and nobody likes it. So yeah, you know, there's obviously, you've got to be like happy with that side of things. But yeah, for us, it's certainly less about kind of likes and views, isn't it? And more about, who am I talking to as a result of the activity I'm doing? Am I talking to people?
Yeah. And that's why I think pods are just ridiculous, because
I'm so glad that you said that before I had to.
I just think that the funniest things I ever see, because all the comments for a start are just completely misaligned with what people are posting. I sort of saw one last week when someone was talking about, I know they had to swap something around in their day about, you know, something to do with their family or something, and they had to swap their day around, and all these comments were coming up saying, love your post, can't wait for the next one, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I just think it discredits the person who's actually posted it, because it's obviously not real, and it's just gaming the system. Obviously, I just think it just makes me laugh. It just makes me chuckle.
It's also really sad, isn't it? So for me, I think, you know, there's a tiny infinitesimal slice of pods that can be legitimate, like, but only if you're connected with people who actually take the time to read your post and comment something that's valuable, but also people who are actually connected to other people you want to see your stuff. That's what I think so many people forget about LinkedIn is that, yeah, okay, the more people you're connected to that comment on your stuff, the more people see it. Yeah, great. But if all of those people are connected to surgeons and you want to connect with mechanics, how does that help you? Like, I don't understand. And I think that's the thing for me. It's like, you have a platform. Everybody always says this. They're like, oh, Jess, where can I find high ticket clients? Where can I, you know, find really specific types of people that I want to connect with? And I'm like, we can find them on LinkedIn. Like, you can literally narrow that down. Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah. But instead of finding those people first, what I'm going to do is create a load of content and effectively get my mum, my nan, and my dog to go and comment on it and hope that they're connected to those people. Like, you're on the platform. You can cultivate that. Like, do the beginning work. Target those people and actually connect with them before you go and spray the market with a bunch of content that might be really relevant but ultimately doesn't hit any of the right people, so it doesn't resonate.
Yeah.
Do you guys see that a lot?
Yeah, I do. And I think through kind of discussions that we've had as well, just like you know, you are all for encouraging people to, okay, it might feel slightly uncomfortable to be going and connecting with somebody that doesn't know you yet, or you know, making that first step, that you're the one that makes the step to go and, you know, start a conversation, introduce yourself, whatever it might be. But actually, that's the only way that you are going to be able to connect with the people that you really want to have in your network and want to see what you're doing. And, you know, that really is the only way of doing it. So I think that, yeah, people do kind of mess around with those other steps, don't they? Because it's easier and it feels more comfortable and not as kind of, yeah, frightening as going and starting a conversation with someone you don't know. But ultimately, if that's the person that you want to talk to, that's the person that you need to go and talk to.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, it's so interesting because I think the more, as with any industry, the more people that get out there and go, oh, I'm going to teach people how to use LinkedIn, the more people are using it perhaps in a way that doesn't actually work for them. And then they blame the platform. And I don't know whether this is something that you guys see, but I see a lot of people now who go, oh yeah, Facebook doesn't work. And I'm like, well, as much as I'm not a fan of Zuckerberg, like, Facebook can work if you are willing to do specific things. And it's becoming the same with LinkedIn. People are coming to me and they're going, oh yeah, LinkedIn doesn't work. I've tried that. And I'm like, it's not a game. You didn't complete it. It's not Super Mario. Like, you didn't get to level 95 and then be like, oh yeah, by the way, the princess, total ripoff. Like, it's not like that. We have to at some point quantify, well, what did we do? You know, did we actually go through the process? And that must frustrate the crap out of you guys, because ultimately there are so many people who are going around and they're like, oh yeah, I'm teaching LinkedIn, and then they're teaching processes or part of processes that don't link up. So if they don't do that beginning foundational work that you were talking around, like finding that ideal client, really nailing that down, then obviously the rest of the process doesn't actually work for you.
I think you're absolutely right. I'm sure Jamie will have something to add here because we talk about it quite frequently, but we see a lot of people offering support with LinkedIn, and the goal is, you know, engagement, isn't it? It's how to get your posts seen, how to you know, grow your network and get your posts seen. You're like, okay, yeah, sure, but for what? You know, if that's the goal, then great. But what at the end, or I can show you how to use it from a technical point of view. Like, okay, great. So you know that, but understanding how to use a platform from a technical point of view doesn't necessarily get you more leads.
Yeah, I think what people forget, which we try to sort of talk about, is that LinkedIn's a cog in a bigger sales process. So people try and, you know, do everything on LinkedIn in terms of, you know, take them all the way to the end of the sale, but that doesn't work. If you work out where LinkedIn fits in your bigger sales process, which is why we talk about holistic sales process and talk about where LinkedIn fits in with sales teams, is that, you know, LinkedIn has a specific job in different sales processes, and that's going to be different for every type of service-based business, because every service is different, every product's different, the values of those products are going to be different. So you just need to approach things differently and work out where LinkedIn fits in with that bigger sales process, and then focus on the right things. And because that's different everywhere, you know, you're not going to find this one size fits all that works across, you know, every process, which is why people get frustrated, because they want it to be easy, but it's not.
I think that's so true. I think people do that across most things, and that's one of the things I love about you guys, is that you're not generic. I think it's a lot harder now to be generic than it ever was, because things are so different and platforms are trying to make things so changeable. But I think also the advice is valid not just for LinkedIn, but for everything. You know, if you're looking for generic processes in any area, marketing, sales, finance, like whatever, it's not going to necessarily work, because it's not going to have all the components that are going to be the right fit for you. So I guess, you know, if people had to look at it and they had to take into account the different stages of your like holistic sales process, are there specific areas that they would have to go, right, okay, well, I have to look at what kind of content style is going to resonate most of my audience. And then I'm going to have to look at what kind of lead generation, like, is there a breakdown of key themes for people that they can go and like get in contact with you guys and say, right, I've done this bit and I think I've done that really well, but my content sucks, or like, you know, my lead generation is not great.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like we said earlier, everything starts with your target market. So we've got a process called the empathy marketing method, and that basically analyzes your ideal customer in real depth. And it isn't just about knowing who they are, it's about how they resonate with things, where you know, where do they hang out, how they generally react to content. You know, are they very active on LinkedIn? Because, you know, some audiences are on LinkedIn. Well, I mean, everyone's on LinkedIn pretty much, but, you know, they're not as active publicly on LinkedIn, but doesn't mean that you still can't use LinkedIn to get to them, because LinkedIn's most basic form is a really, really detailed, targeted database of people. So if they're not active on LinkedIn and you can't publicly engage with them and build relationships that way, then you need to think about, well, how can I build a relationship with you? And it's probably going to be more direct and going some, you know, through DMs, for example. Whereas some people are very active on LinkedIn and they're going to be more, they're going to resonate more with you actually, you know, engaging with them publicly and, you know, supporting their posts, dropping the sort of thought leadership piece into the comments, which is, you know, relevant to the post they're actually putting out there, and doing it that way before you potentially move on to a private message. And some people will, you know, you have to focus more on your content and trying to nail the style of content that's going to work best for them. And again, we can help with that. But, you know, is it going to be more broadcast content? Is it going to be more discussion-based content? There's lots and lots of factors you need to think about here, because, you know, if people engage on your content, you know, it is easier to convert them, but it's got to be the right people. So you need to find the right type of content for the right people. So I mean, loads of processes that you have to go through, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's just trying to work out where LinkedIn fits into your bigger sales process, so that ultimately, which is what we completely focus on, it's not about vanity metrics, it's not connections, it's none of that jazz. It's about, you know, are you getting phone calls, and are those phone calls converting into paying clients? Because it's all about the ROI, because if you're not getting an ROI out of it, there's not much point doing it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think to add to what Jamie said, I think what we often find, Jess, is that when someone does come to us and they say, oh, like you just said, I've got this going on, the content's happening, this bit I've got down, but I'm still not getting phone calls or something. It's as complex as it could be, and it's only complex because, like Jamie said, it's no one size fits all. But when it's your business, you can simplify it, because you only need to think about yourself and your business, don't you? You don't need to think about anybody else. But I think what I would say is, like, we very quickly identify where the gaps are. So it is often quite easy to see, okay, so you're doing this. Have you thought about doing that? What do you do here? And a lot of the time there is something that is missing, isn't there? There is a gap. Yeah, it doesn't take us too long to identify, and then we can work on it with that person. Yeah, I don't think I know I haven't kind of come across it yet, where someone is kind of doing everything that we'd be recommending and still nothing happening. There's typically something that we can identify that makes a difference.
Well, I think it's always the way, isn't it? With all due respect to everybody listening, and of course you guys and myself, I fully include in this, but sometimes what we think we do is the right thing, and actually we're not doing the right things. We're like, oh yeah, but I'm doing that because I'm posting the required amount of content, or I'm doing, I'm connected to all the right people, and it just doesn't work. And the reality is that if it isn't working for you, but it is working for other people, then unfortunately it's not that those people are magical unicorns and that everything goes well for them. It's that you are doing something wrong. Like, and it's really unfortunate. And I mean, I talk about it all the time. 6 years of being in business, and I'm like, some clients it might take longer to click for sure. But if you consistently do the work and you implement the process, then it is going to work. If you jump off the ledge before that, then unfortunately, you're going to drop out and you will miss the opportunities, and you'll have to start again with a new process or do something differently. But it's really, really important that whenever you take advice, you actually implement that advice, and you don't go and look elsewhere, or you don't try and join it with other strategies. I don't know whether that's something that comes up for you guys, where people will mix what you're teaching, like companies will mix what you're teaching with perhaps a training that they've had 3 or 4 years ago, and you're like, well, why would you even think that would work? Because it's in the past. Like, it's obviously things are changing. But if you are listening, you're thinking, oh yeah, well, maybe I could mix this with this, and maybe I could do a bit of that and that. Systems aren't inherently designed to work together. That's why, when you assess your results from something, so if you're thinking, yeah, I need to use more of LinkedIn, and I like what Janine and Jamie are saying about ROI, then you need to go and follow them and consume their content and actually do what they're saying, not follow them and 300 other people on LinkedIn that teach LinkedIn strategies, because ultimately they're not designed to be used congruently, are they?
No, you're totally right. And I think when you mentioned earlier, every market's so saturated. The LinkedIn market's really saturated now because everyone's an expert.
Yeah.
So
well, everyone
so I think it's really hard for people to work out who to listen to and where to focus. But you're totally right. You need to get the right process to give it a chance, and then you've got to be patient with that process, because we focus on relationship-driven marketing. That's what we're about. And that's where B2B sales is at. It's about relationships that you build with people. You're not going to instantly turn something on and it's going to generate you leads overnight, because that's not how relationships are built. It does take time, but also you need to be confident in your process, because the opportunity cost, that you lose in terms of, if you're going down a rabbit hole for 6 months and because you're doing the wrong things, then you're going to think at the end of that process, LinkedIn doesn't work for you, but LinkedIn will work for you. You just haven't got the right process. So it is tricky for people, but I think taking the time to work out the right process and being comfortable and confident in that process with the right help, but then being patient on the back of that process is going to get you the best results long term. But obviously there's a few factors for people to decide there to make sure that, it's right for them and they're comfortable with it and confident with it, which is why I think, one-on-one help is what you need for these kind of things. I think it's very hard to pick up a LinkedIn course or a group program or whatever it is, and learn it and be comfortable that is going to be right for you and your business. I think it will work for some, but then others will probably be disappointed. So that's why I think you really need to delve deep into, your process and who the process is for, to make sure it's right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you at least need to be able to, I think, either have some space to kind of for one-to-one time, or be able to have a space to share those reflections and get that accountability for you, don't you? I think, I think I just want to touch on a point that Jamie made as well about being patient. So I think people do give up too quickly with it. It's like they think, okay, well, I've learned this now and I've done it for a week and nothing's happened yet. But I mean, it does take time. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't expect to kind of get a result and get something back, but it doesn't happen overnight. It does take time. It does take effort. And I think that's sometimes what people get stuck with, isn't it? That they think, oh, well, I've done this training, or in principle, I understand what this is, but actually doing the execution is where the results are going to come. And, like any form of, wherever you are, if you want to kind of, I guess, get leads for your business, whatever you want to call it, have conversations, have discovery calls, whatever it is that you want, but ultimately it's opportunity to talk to people about your products and services. It requires some effort.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And I think that's so valuable, what you've both said there about consistency and patience. I think it's really important for people to know, because nobody's saying it. Everyone's like, oh, well, as soon as your sales team learn this, or as soon as you've got this skill, it should all just happen immediately. And the reality is it doesn't. And, so many people are out there trying to use so many different platforms to connect with their ideal clients. They're spending tons of money on repurposing their content. They're spending tons of time and energy on creating brand new organic content all the time for multiple platforms in multiple sizes and formats. And the reality is, if you just stick with one and do that really, really well, you're going to see more results and you're going to see them quicker. The benefit, I guess, of doing it on LinkedIn is that obviously it's a very different audience over there, in that the average person who is interacting on LinkedIn, I read something about this recently in Harvard Business Review, and they were saying that the average person who you are like integrating with or connecting with on LinkedIn is earning like 70 grand. So when people talk about like, oh, I want high value clients, or I want to be connecting with thought leaders, and I want to be connecting with people who are at the top of their game, or who are decision makers or stakeholders, whatever, I'm like, well, why are you trying to target these people on Facebook? Because obviously the average earner on Facebook is a lot lower. So actually, if you're talking about ROI and you're talking about high impact, high results, you absolutely want to be on a platform where you can define, what is that person potentially earning? What's their disposable income going to look like? What's their marketing budget for their organization? What are they actually looking at spending? That's going to be much, much easier to define on that platform. It might be that you have to learn a few things and you have to interact differently. It might not even be as fun, dare I say it. Like, puppy pictures are not all over. Otherwise I would spend way more time there. But, the reality is, if you're looking for that high ROI return, then absolutely, of course you want to be there, right?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose it comes back to your objectives. What are you actually trying to achieve from your social media presence? Is it just to sort of have a basic brand awareness across all platforms, or you're actually trying to generate an ROI and actual money from your time on the platform? And if you are wanting to make money and a decent ROI, then it's like you say, it's better to be in one place, do it really well, but be in the place where the people that have money are hanging out. And that, that is LinkedIn. I think I read a stat as well. I think 80% of B2B social leads come from LinkedIn. So it
That's
makes
huge,
sense.
isn't it? 80, was that 88%? 80% of leads.
80.
So that means that the rest of everybody bumming around on like Facebook and Instagram are getting 20% of the combined total leads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you're B2B and you're looking for social leads, then, LinkedIn is the place to be. That's what the stats say. And well, we know it because we do it.
Yeah. You guys see this every day.
Yeah. So yeah.
Capaldi J 2020.
I love that. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Seriously, I know that people will have got a ton from this, but more importantly, where can they actually find you? Where's the best place for them to come and connect with you and learn more about what you guys are up to?
Instagram. No, joking.
I really wanted to do that joke.
I've got this massive Instagram following. It's like,
yeah. So LinkedIn. It's best. Just come and connect with us on LinkedIn. Jamie Capaldi, Janine Capaldi. Connect with us. Drop us a message on LinkedIn, and let us know what you're doing on LinkedIn and what you're trying to get from it. And let's just have a conversation. It's all good. Mm-hmm. Or connect with us. Have a look at our content. We're pretty frequent on there. We engage publicly on there all the time. So yeah, LinkedIn's the place to come and see us.
I love that. All right, awesome. I've made sure, you guys, well, I say I've made sure, Team Jess has made sure that the links for both Jamie and Janine's LinkedIn profiles are in the show notes for you. So obviously, if you do have a key takeaway from this episode, please make sure that you connect with them and share your key takeaway with them and with me, because it's always good to know when we're hitting the mark. But more importantly, if you are somebody who's considering B2B sales this year, you must be on LinkedIn. It's time to start using it like somebody who knows what they're doing so that you can generate the ROI that you need. So make sure that you go and connect with Jamie and Janine. Their content is really good. It's actually some of the few pieces of content that I actually occasionally comment on. I don't even I actually comment occasionally. So that shows how good it is. I get out of my lurker box from liking that. Thank you guys so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.